Afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I think you all know I'm Howard Katz, managing partner at Linnean Private Wealth Management. And yeah, I have everything written out because it helps keep me straighter. Our team just celebrated our 10th anniversary with IFG. I can't believe we left 10 years ago. That is unbelievable. And that was after a good long run at our prior firm. But I don't want to tell you how long because you'll know how long I've been in the business, and it's a long damn time. But that is where we really cut our teeth learning how to do financial planning on a consulting fee basis. So we have been charging consulting fees for 20 years. And this is not about that, but it's about family planning within the within the financial planning process. So when you're talking to other family members, that's what we're going to talk about. But we've been doing it for 20 years. I got a $5,500 fee earlier this week. I don't care about it all that much. I like the opportunity, but I'm underwhelmed. $8,500, $9,500 fees are kind of layups at this point. Those same fees will be 12 to 15 this year. And we've collected as much as $25,000 in the last couple of years. So we do a fair amount of fee-based planning. And when IFG approached me about speaking here, I thought it would be really kind of cool, with the theme of retreat being bridging the generational gap, is to share some of my experiences, some of my hard-earned lessons too, about bridging the generational gap for the family wealth across the generations of our clients' families, right? So, and really what we're going to talk about today are any discussions that you have where there's a family member or somebody else in the room, but really about family members in the room. And I just want to differentiate for a second. At first, we were going to call this doing family meetings, which connotates a really big process where you get the family together and you do these mission, vision, and values, and then you use that to prepare them for the wealth and get them all working together. I've been trained on it. I actually think I'm certified on it, but we're not talking about that today because you will never use it, and I have never used it. Today, what we're going to talk about, I think it's something that's going to be even better for you guys and more practical. You can use it every day, and I'm hoping some of you that have experience will chime in too. So what I need you to appreciate is that anytime you go into a meeting and there's another family member in there, the dynamic changed. The entire situation just changed. It just gets weird. And sometimes it'll be the folks bringing the kids in. Sometimes it's the kids bringing the folks in. Maybe they own a business together and you're starting to have some of these transition meetings together. It could be siblings owning a business together. You got all these things where there's family in there and you can't have the same free-flowing conversation one-on-one because there's other factors in play in there, right? So there's a lot of times when you're going to do that. I want you to appreciate it's also a meeting with other family members present if the husband or the wife has joined you and they don't normally sit in on that meeting, right? Usually it's one person space. So if the husband or wife is joining you for the first time, it's different. And Justin and I had a wife literally run out of the room, break down in tears when she saw the balance sheet. So I know you're wondering if it's a good balance sheet or it's a bad balance sheet. Really what the problem was is that they were approaching retirement, and the couple that they were going to do all their traveling with, the wife just died unexpectedly. So her retirement picture just went poof, and our regular Joe had managed to accumulate $3 million over the course of time, and they are about to retire, and she would have rather spent it, than had been saving it. So she was a little bit upset. That's the backstory. You don't need to know all that stuff. I bring you that story because that would not have happened, us just talking to our client for 10 years who we meet with all the time. But the wife came in, and it's a different dynamic going on in that room. You're going to have to speak a little bit differently. So it's not just the kids or the parents or the brothers and the sisters. I would encourage you to also view it, if the wife is in there, that's other family in the room, and it's going to be a little weird. Weird not being the right term, but the other time that I consider them family is if their advisors are going to be in that room, right? A lot of times advisors are in when you're meeting with the kids, if you're trying to do some estate planning. There's going to be a lot of situations where there's different types of folks in the room. So you should appreciate that when the dynamic shifts, you're going to have to dance a little bit better than what you would normally do. So we're just going to go over some best practices, a few hard-earned learning lessons, and I try to contribute back to the Brain Trust. I hope you all, when you get the opportunity, will do the same. And this is me trying to help you all and trying to contribute here. So one of the things that I have learned over the years working with families, and I know it's going to offend one or two of you all, Every family's crazy. Every family's crazy. Their family's crazy. Your family's crazy. My family's crazy, and it's not just me. There's a lot of crazy cats running around. Very crazy, obviously. But every family's crazy, and I look at a family like a stew, right? Too much of one or two ingredients can spoil the pot. A little bit too much heat can spoil the pot. And anytime you're talking with other family in the room, the temperature is turned up just a little bit, and maybe sometimes a lot. So we're all crazy. We just have our own brands, right? And some of them are a little higher proof or higher test than others. But whenever you're going to these meetings, it's emotionally charged. It's less rational. It's perhaps irrational every single time you go into a meeting with another family member present. I would not yell at you all at the top of my lungs across one of these tables in the middle of a restaurant like I would with one of my sisters. Like, I have zero problem with that. We don't act normal with everybody. So when you're going into these meetings, don't just walk in and be like, hey, let's go on. You got to hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And you just are not going to know what's going to happen. But if you can ask the right questions ahead of time, you can maybe sidestep some of the landmines that are going to blow up your meetings and blow up your interactions for time to come. And that's really the root of the problem, is when we're dealing with family, we are not professional, right?
Or do you get some prep questions to your main contact before this happens? Like if family's coming in, do you ask mom or dad, hey, what do we not need to disclose? What do we?
That's a great one. Yeah. And in fact, it's perfect. I will tell you, you are best served. You will help your clients better. You can engage your inner Guy Fieri and try to understand the ingredients of this stew before you just dive right on in and taste it. So 100%, that's what you have to do. Seek to understand as much as you can before you walk in the door. So a lot of times we don't have that luxury. You know, somebody will call you. How many times do you get a phone call? Hey, I'm sitting here with my son. Can we just talk about that really complex topic we talked about a month or two ago? Like you have total recall, like Johnny on the spot. Or how about this one? Hey, I'm sitting here with my attorney and we just had a question for you. Right? Like, we get ambushed a lot. And I will give you one piece of advice. When that happens, this is what I do. I take a deep breath and I just go, be professional. And then we go to work, right? So if you can be professional in those times where I know that guy was being a jerk just trying to make me look bad. I'm going to be better than that. And you look smooth, life's good. So, what? Yeah, what'd he say? Which part? I like that, actually. So we get ambushed like that. So if you have the opportunity to know to know what's coming and to recon the situation, I would do it. So what do they say when they do it? Here's what happens. So when they say to me, hey, I want you to meet with my son or daughter, I'd say, I would love to meet with your son or daughter, whomever. Tell me more. What can you tell me about them? What can you tell me about the rest of the family? What's your goal in that meeting? I'm going to repeat it 5 or 6 times. What's your goal in that meeting? What are the obstacles to achieving that goal? And what do they know? And what can we share? What can't we share? And if there's other advisors, I want to know who's leading the meeting. Even sometimes with family, I want to know who's leading the meeting. Tell me about them. And I want you to go deep on that stuff because we're all crazy, right? I mean, who would yell at their sibling in the middle of a restaurant? Anybody? I mean, in church. God love you. So every time I'm going to ask them that. Tell me about the rest of the family. What are the obstacles? And if you can position it with your client that it is helpful to understand the lay of the land so that we can navigate this together and achieve your goal of X. So let me ask you a few questions. They're going to say, okay. And if you ask me those questions, I would be impressed. If you ask me those questions, better yet, you're going to be better prepared to do a good job in there and try to keep the puck moving forward for our clients. So same thing, I'll repeat them. Tell me a little bit, tell me about them, tell me about the family. What are the goals? What's your goal? What are the obstacles? And what do they know, not know? So Jurie said she's the CEO for that case we're working. And who's ever said they're the financial quarterback? Come on, right? Quarterbacks have game plans. CEOs have business plans. When you walk in that meeting, have a game plan. And those pre-conversations are the game plans. That's putting the game plan together. And a lot of times they will be like mini counseling sessions with your clients. I mean, you'll get a hug or a tear every now and then. So be prepared for that too. If you're uncomfortable in that space, suck it up, buttercup. Right? And I thought about a bunch of juicy examples with terrible family stories, which would be really interesting, but I don't think they would help you very much. So we're going to run through a couple situations where we were able to put tight fact patterns together and give you some best practices. Would you all agree generally, most folks, when you talk to them about their estate planning, they want to split it up equally among their kids, right? You hear that all day, every day. It's a general rule. And that becomes your guiding light in these things. So gotta be even, Stephen. But let's say for the sake of argument, there's either a family business or a big piece of real estate that is the majority of the estate, right? And there's not enough investments and insurance business to divide up equally. In the example I'm going to give you, there's 3 kids in there. So, and only one of those kids is active in the business. So we want to be even Steven. What are we going to do? Was it a good idea to just give each of them a third ownership of that business? I don't know any other way to split it. So everybody recognizes that is a bad idea, right? And I'll give you an example. Like I know a guy, he's not a client, he was a buddy of mine, and his parents came up with this great idea. We're going to take this family business and we're going to give it to these 2 boys that have not really been working together in the business. And this is going to work great. They literally got into a fist fight in the middle of the family business, and that plan did not work out well. And it happens all the time. You know, we had another business. This was mom and dad, second marriage, 1 child from each working in the biz. There's 4 total kids. One of the kids who's in his 40s who works in the business is frequently seen driving around in the company truck stoned, and has literally put a gun on the table while talking to his employees in a non-threatening way, as non-threatening as that can be, right? So, but it's also a huge asset in the estate, and we can't equalize otherwise. And their plan when we walked in is that each of them get a quarter of the business. So I'm gonna change the fact pattern for 1 second. Imagine it was each get a third, and there's 1 in the business and 2 out. Each one of those 2 is a swing vote with the 1 in the business. Those 2 can gang up on the 1 in the business. So that what we all would naturally do, the guiding light of being even Steven in the real world, is terrible in most instances. And it's why fewer than a third of family businesses make it to the 2nd generation, less than 15 make it to the 3rd. So, I'm going to say it again, all families are crazy, right? Forcing a partnership where none existed before is crazy. You would never do it at your office. You wouldn't find 2 people off the street and say, yeah, run this business. You guys don't know each other. It'll work. But we do it all the time. And, you know, in this business, if you're looking for a partnership, we tell you to look at like a marriage, right? So that's a prearranged marriage. That's a shotgun marriage for your kids if you're going to make them own that business together. And that is a crazy plan for your family wealth. So those 2 boys fighting in the middle of that floor, what was the crazy part there? The crazy part was the parents thinking that that was a good plan. Crazy is as crazy does, man. So the result was inevitable. We just don't act normal with our families. And you would just never do that. So most of you all have said it's a bad plan. Would you agree we would never want, if I own business, Rich, if you and I own a piece of business together, a piece of real estate together, are we in business together? Sure. Right? So most of the estate plans that you see, I would say 99% of them, do that crazy bit right there. Because they have the kids own the house together or the beach house together instead of one of them each owning a piece of it. So what we all can hear say is a bad plan is in every will that you will visit, probably 99 out of 100 times. So we know it's bad, we know it's a recipe for disaster, and everybody does it. So by the way, the term I would encourage you to use with your clients is separate but equal. So like if you had a beach house and the home house, one of you gets the beach house, one of you gets the lake house, and we do something to try to true it up. So we're going to be equal, but separate ownership, keep you guys separate. That's a good way to continue your relationships. Forcing you to be in business together, not so much. So crazy ideas, crazy relationships, crazy influence too, because the in-laws bring a whole new ingredient to that stew, a whole new brand of crazy once we sprinkle them in there. And it's just insane. So how do you manage all that crazy? How do you keep all the emotions from yelling at each other across the table in check while you're trying to plan across the generations of their families? And that's trying to do it with folks. Everybody's trying to reach down to the second generation too. So you're going to have instances where you're in there with two clients in the room, son and daughter, right? Or brother and sister, or whomever it is. I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on there, not to mention all the stuff that we actually study and train and help people do every day. So it gets really, really challenging to do that. I know you guys all know this. And I tell clients this, the best part of what we do, the most enviable part, is that we are allowed to have conflicts of interest. We are required to disclose them. I'll say consider yourself disclosed after I tell them that. It's a little joke, everybody laughs. But you're allowed to get in there and get your hands dirty. I can have a client and a client on both sides of a deal that we're negotiating, and I can actually represent both of them. My true north in doing that is to what's best for the family, right? So Keith Smith, you hired me. I'm working for you, but you told me you want to do what's best for the family. So that's the lens that I'm looking at. And if there's going to be opportunity for your kids to fight or for whatever, for people to start duking it out, my job is to help prevent that from happening. So not having separate but equal is a really great example of that. So the hard
part is basically telling them what you think they should hear, whether they want to hear it or not.
Yes, but you are still have to weigh both of your clients in the room.
It has to come to that lens, but still, you have to. There will be things that you might have to tell P, even though he hired you, that he might not want to hear, but you're gonna say because you're gonna stick to the truth.
Yeah, 110%. Well, little things.
110%.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a good point. And another hard part too is that you sometimes have to confirm who you're working for in any particular scenario, right? So if you're at a table and there's a bunch of people in there, or two of your clients are in there, who's leading the discussion? What are we trying to achieve in that discussion? Like, who are you representing? You're going to have conflicts of interest. So you've got to be able to manage that. And if you can stick to your true north of what's best for the family across the generations, it can help resolve some of that, because you know, this is what I think you should do. And I tell them that too, that this is exactly what you're trying to do. So a really quick side note, sometimes you're going to get to talk to the other kids or the other family members one-on-one, right? I want you to go talk to them in advance before we all get together, or we're going to step out for a little bit and you guys can talk. So when you do that, I tell them, we operate on a none your principle in my business. Everything is none your business till it's your business. So what you tell me, I will not tell them. By the same token, what they've told me, I'm not going to tell you unless I have express permission to share. And you know it's going to be in the vault. You better honor it if you say it, right? Loose lips sink ships, and if you blow it here, you're going to really blow it. But it gives them a little greater freedom to know you're not going to share what I say with mommy and daddy. You're like, no, it's just us talking. But you can hear the stories about Susie ripped the head off my Barbie doll when we were 6, and I never forgave her for that, and I am not splitting the business with her over the Barbie doll. Any comments, questions, you guys feel free to throw out. So I tell them all who I'm working for, confidential. So what I really want to start doing, there's a lot of ways for you to be toast. So I said if you break that confidence, you're going to be toast. There's a million ways to be toast in these relationships. So we're going to go into some do's and don'ts, talk about some real life stuff, and any questions you have. So pretend for a second you are doing your 4th quarter review with your best client, and I am her. So, right? And I say to you, hey, my daughter's going to be in town next week, and I would love for us to sit together, because I'm starting to try to expose them to what's going on in the estate. And we want to start pulling. So I want you to let that sink in for a second. It's your best client. Her daughter, who's an attorney, is coming to the meeting, and y'all going to talk about something. Self-check. How y'all feeling? Yeah, a little anxious. That's exactly right. So it's how are you going to respond to that? I want you to go meet with her.
Be prepared as I can. You're talking about how am I going to respond to that?
Yeah, like they just threw it in the middle of the table. Hey, we're going to have this crazy meeting, and you're a little nervous.
Go back to it and say, what's an old meeting?
100%. Tell me more. I am happy to meet with your son or daughter. Tell me a little bit more about them. Open-ended, have the discussion. It's the same thing. Tell me about them. Tell me about the rest of the family. What's your goal? What's your obstacles? And what do they know, not know? We're not going to do that then. We're busy. We're very busy. But I want them to come in. But again, I want to know about all of it. If you're prepared, you can do that meeting well. And if you're not prepared, an SEC attorney who starts asking you about your policy, I want to know that before they walk in, because they might ask some hard questions, right?
Well, a good manager, that's like a good attorney, but you want to stay, you should try to answer the question before time, right?
And I do that. So I prep for my meetings. I want to know what my goal is. I want to know the personality type that I'm dealing with. I want to know what the distractions are to us achieving that goal. And I'll answer my own distractions before I get in the meeting. So I can, when they say, well, my brother's a financial advisor too. I'm like, oh, your brother's a doofus. That should just come off the tongue really easy, and it does. So we talked about what's the goal. And what you should appreciate is that each of these meetings, you're obviously going to have their own individual goals. They're all kind of custom done. We had, at the end of the year, we have an 87-year-old woman who's got 3 kids all grown. She's a longtime widow. Her youngest daughter's in Michigan near the family cottage that all the kids went to growing up. And she and her hubby do well. She's a consultant and he's a hotshot lawyer. Probably one of those. And then there's the 2 boys that live here. One of them is divorced. And one of them, he was a really successful professional until his bipolar diagnosis. And now he collects $15,000 to $20,000 per month disability income for the rest of his life. And he's back towards kind of middle for where he is in life. $15,000 to $20,000 per month for the rest of his life. The third child, the oldest, is an unsuccessful dentist. Have you ever heard that term? It's an oxymoron. There's no such thing as an unsuccessful dentist, but this guy's achieving in that space. And, right, he's just not good with money is really the problem. And in fact, there's creditor issues on the horizon, and we're trying to be cognizant of this as we're planning how to divvy up mom's estate. So they're redoing the estate plan, and mom's got 3 goals going in. She wants even Steven. She wants all the boys to be able to enjoy she wants all the family to be able to enjoy the cottage. And she does not want her estate plan to destroy their relationships. She wants family harmony to be maintained as best as possible. So the daughter is thinking the following. This was the initial discussion with mom. The daughter wants to set it up so that she and the disability brother get all of their money outright. $600,000 each. It's not a huge estate. They're each going to get their $600,000 outright. But unsuccessful dentist, his $600,000, we're going to keep that in trust, right? Because of the creditor issues, but he sucks with money. So we're going to put his kid sister in as the trustee, and she'll just dole out money when he needs it, right? If you put my kid sister in charge of my money, we are going to have a lot of problems. I just promise you. So, it's a terrible plan. But the daughter is gung-ho about this, and mom she feels it. Something's not right about that, but she can't really voice it because she doesn't know how to solve it. She said, how do you do it? I was like, I don't care about how. Let's just talk about what. There's a lot of great whats that got defeated by how. So just focus on what she's trying to achieve. For her, it was what she didn't want to have happen. And I knew she was negative, so I said, let's talk about that. She does not want the boys to never see that place up in Michigan anymore. She does not want them in each other's throats, and she doesn't want them fighting over it being unequal. So we could get into that a little bit. We were able to walk through it, but she can really see that being her brother's keeper from 1,000 miles away is going to be a mess. So the daughter's thinking that that's the best way to do it. And I go and have this discussion with mom in advance. So this is what I want you to do. You're going to go and just talk to her. And if you can understand the lay of the land, you can figure it out. I'm coming in with an idea that's completely different than what they've considered. So, but I'm going into the meeting to be collaborative. How many people have had a big sales presentation? You were doing a big analysis of the investment portfolio, you're trying to move it, and everybody's just saying, nope, we're not going to do it, ever. You're trying to head some of those types of problems off at the pass. So she's really panicked about this. She doesn't know what to do, and I said, don't worry about it. Let's talk about what you want to do. So she and I would go have this discussion, and I have no idea what I'm stepping into. I have been told the hotshot son-in-law is really arrogant. I found him to be a really great guy. I had great conversation with the daughter, but the mom tells me that. So we open with mom's goal. She knows I know that I'm going to be leading a little bit. I've got that permission to do that. And I restate those 3 goals with her, and then I give mom the floor and let her do it. And it was a pretty emotional discussion, but it was pretty good, pretty productive. And we're trying on several solutions. We start with the one that the daughter's proposing. And I just keep asking, is this going to help or is this going to hurt your family relationships? Because that's mom's goal. And every time we come up with any solution we're talking about, that is the metric. She recognizes pretty quickly being her brother's keeper, bad idea. So we had to figure it out in pieces. What we figured out was the property in Michigan is about $600,000. The home is about $600,000, and the other assets in the life insurance are about $600,000. So the one up there is going to get the property, and she said she'll allow them to come a couple of weeks a year every year. The one down here gets the house, and one gets the rest of the dough. So even Steven, we got covered. But how do we do it in a way, like, could you imagine if your mom and dad gave your siblings all of theirs outright and yours was in trust? Like, that's just such a slap in the face. So that's the parting shot that your parents would. Yes. So part of what you have to do a lot of times when you're talking to folks, I think, is you build to the lowest common denominator. And if we've got to have it in trust for one, we got to have it in trust for all of them. What we agreed to here was it's only $600,000. If he's a ne'er-do-well, if he's going to blow it, he's going to blow it. And it's either going to be all at once or he'll come to you little by little and blow it, and then he's just going to hate you. So why don't we just give him the money? There's no reason to withhold it except for the creditor protection. So she agrees with that overall, maybe his best shot of success is to get $600,000 cash, and maybe he can turn it into something. But either way, she's backstopping him. She's not going to let him live on the street. If he blows it all, she'll give him $1,000 a month or something plus Social Security. So we're going through all that. I lost my train of thought. We no longer need to have a trustee for the rest of time, for the rest of days, right? We need to have a trustee just for the length of time for this creditor situation to go by the wayside. And mom's still doing great. She did say to me, "Don't tell my kids I drove here." So we did not tell her kids.
You thought of using some of that $600,000 to pay off the creditors? Mom's still alive though, so I mean.
Then he'd have zero. So why not just declare bankruptcy and keep your $600,000? Yeah, it's a great thought. If it were bigger, it's a good idea, but I think he's.
If the creditorship was smaller, it'd be a better idea. Right? Some of the $600,000 creditors.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
For equipment?
Nowadays, you can spend $600,000 like that.
So what about
I don't know.
not all trusts are created equal?
Say that again?
Not all trusts are created
Yes.
equal. And the way one's functions doesn't have to be a dinner conversation between the other every Thanksgiving or whatever, right?
You have a sister. Try that sentence on again.
What about an annuity? Period certain.
It could apply there. It could work.
Did they come up in conversation?
No, I mean, I'm trying not to get into the particular solutions as much as managing that process that was around here. But what I explained to her is we don't need you to serve in a trustee role for the next 30 years anymore. We just need somebody that can flip the switch. And your brother can do that. Like, why don't we put the brother that's down here? It's 2 brothers. They get along pretty well. He's with it enough to not give him the money till the creditorship's done. And I've spoken to him since. He said, I love it. So, and I'm happy to tell you, we just got back to sign documents this week. I was a little pissed about it, to tell you the truth, because I told her and I told the attorney, don't sign anything until we get to review it. And I just found out when they met in November, it took them 2 months to get me signed copies. Like, I don't know what they were doing, but so we don't need a temporary trustee anymore. So now we're going to put the brother in there. We've got even Steven, and we don't have him having to come to her for the rest of their life. So it was a really good solution, 1,000 times better than what they were going to come up with.
Does the one who gets the house want the house?
I mean, he could have either one. They're just going to sell it. It's just cash.
The one that got the condo lost. The brothers had to get to come up there for indefinitely to visit us now and then?
I mean,
Trash the place?
Yeah, but she's gonna use it all the time.
it's a moral, yeah, she'll use it. It's a moral obligation, right? If you're not going to honor the obligation you made to your now deceased mother, then, you know, we know where you'll be. So that,
What happens if the cash were to go down in value?
that's a problem. It's a concern. She's got a little bit of long-term care insurance, so we know that it'll offset some of that. We don't know where that's going to even. So we actually have a provision in there that if theirs is too large, we have to figure out how to true it up. She's either got to pay them or they sell an asset and true it up. It's a good question. So the only reason we were able to do that is because number one, we got everything organized. There's an old life insurance trust. There's her revocable trust. There's a dad's trust. We were able to put everything in, get it really organized, what they had and how it was going to work. But mostly because we did the prep work with mom and we knew what the problems were going in. So I had kind of a preordained solution and we just had to tactfully get it to work. The tactfully part is a skill. Like you can't come in when we're talking about that case where you're saying, this is the greatest thing and you got to do it right now. And the guy's like, no. Like we all have, you need to be more collaborative. Everybody's got opinions. Everybody's got experience. Everybody can lend something to this. So when you're going to talk to other advisors or you're going to talk to the kids that are in the business, like really be open to the idea. Be like, well, let's talk about that and try to play it out and see if maybe they knew something better than you knew. And you could come up with a lot of solutions that way if you will be collaborative going in. But it's the same questions every time. Hey, I want you to talk to my daughter. Love to do that. Tell me about her. Tell me about the rest of the family. What are the goals? What are the obstacles? What do they know, not know? And I like to know who's leading. So if you'll game plan in advance, you can get a lot done. I don't want to repeat those questions again. Yeah.
If the daughter wasn't an attorney, would you have the same concern? Was it the daughter that's the attorney?
Yeah.
If she wasn't an attorney, would you have the same concern? If she were a housewife? I mean, wouldn't you?
No, I don't have.
Wouldn't you have an interest in bridging the gap to that generation to continue the client?
Yeah. I mean, you're trying to do that for sure. Yes. I'm going with yes.
You ever,
phone friend?
on that though, I mean, you know, obviously we all go through the fit process with our clients when we're onboarding. Maybe the kids aren't a good fit, right? So you always talk about that generation. You get the early toe.
Yeah.
To see how crazy they are.
Yeah, and so we have, I won't tell you the advisor it's named after, but we have a rule in IFG. You can't just bring any advisor into your team and they're automatically an IFG because, you know, you don't know what you're bringing in. So any other questions on those? They're pretty easy. I hope you're getting something you can use here. I want to give you one more. This is a case we're doing right now. This is a long-time life insurance case of mine. I have helped this guy with several trust-owned policies, business-owned policies, personal policies. I've done a couple policies on his son. Been doing business with him for 20 years. I probably made 6 figures off of him. Never met him. But he's a really good client of mine. I love the guy. And we're doing some investment business with him too. And the wife died. So he says, I've never been able to get him to do any fee-based planning with me. So when we're doing the estate planning, we're talking about the way his trusts work. Like I'm looking pretty good. I'm doing the stuff we're supposed to do, but he won't pay me. And he says, I want my son to hire you because we've transferred the business to the son. It's a $30 million business. The son now owns it. And he wants somebody helping the son while we're talking about how to divvy up the dad's estate plan. So when we go into these meetings, who are you working for? Right? Who do you represent? That actually was the exact saving grace. I said, I said in the engagement letter that I sent them, it's for you, it's $9,500. I think your dad should hire us for a separate engagement, and I think later we'll have a third engagement for business succession planning. But we are specifically not doing business succession planning except as relates to stuff that transfers in your estate planning documents. So I took that engagement out, and I knew exactly who I was working for when I went in there. So now the son's hiring us, and we've had a few meetings with him. And I get an email from the dad out of the blue. Hey, did you get any of my other emails? I'm like, what you talking about? In 2 days, he's having a meeting, dad is, with his longtime investment guy who also advises him on his planning and stuff. Not so great. his CPA, his new estate planning attorney, him, son, and me. And can you make it? I said yes. But I said yes, but tell me more. Tell me about the people that are going to be in the room. Tell me about the family relationship. There's still $15 million that needs to be divvied up. Our son in the business, they think he could handle his extra 7.5, but the daughter could not. So we're trying to plan all that, but I'm not hired by dad. So it was great because knowing who I got hired for, did I ever say this? Freed me up to shut up, which is really not my strong suit in a meeting, and I did not do well in that meeting, but I don't want to plan his estate. I asked him and he said no. So we're just reactive, and it turned out pretty well. There's also a lot of tax stuff that the guy's not taking advantage of. He's doing they do a lot of charitable. He's over 70.5. Their current advisor has him withdrawing $150,000 per year from his pension plan and using that to pay all the expenses, including $30,000 or $40,000 a year charitable. So you guys didn't see me. He goes, what? Like, oh my God. I mean, it's really like a layup to go in there, but there's so many great learning lessons in there. What I struggled with going into the meeting the first time was who do I represent? But once I got real clear on that, I knew what I was trying to do in there. All I'm doing is leading and following, but what the client wants us to do when we're in there talking with him, I'm still representing my other client. What is best for the family, right? That's my true north. Even though his clients could do a lot better, I can't come into that meeting and start backbiting in there. I can't say, it shoots me in the foot, it shoots all of them in the foot. So I'm just having to be quiet, be reactive. If they're going to do something stupid, I would say it, but overall it was okay. They're missing some things. But mostly I'm in there just doing that. And I'm belaboring it because everybody efforts to get to the next generation. So you're going to have a lot of instances where you have two clients in the room. And you better get real clear on who you're serving in that situation. And I disclose conflicts of interest all day long. If I send you an email, Tommy, I probably sent you an email and said all tax and legal should be confirmed with their own tax and legal advisors. And I try to do it in the middle of a paragraph and make it a joke. But I will disclose all day, every day. So, because you just don't know who are you representing if you have a blended family. Right? So you're conflicted all the way through. We had clients earlier, this was last year, he's an attorney and she's an attorney. And he walks in and he throws like a $350,000 check on the table. And he'd just gotten from one of his parents' estates. He just got $350,000. And I was like, it's my obligation to tell you, and I'm doing it with your wife in here too, so you both know, if we put that into a joint account, you're giving up rights. I have to tell you, I don't care what you do. My job is to tell you, you make the decisions. And the wife looks at him and she's like, when my dad died last year, we didn't do that. We ain't doing that now. And he was like, so he signed, he endorsed the check and deposited it into the joint account. But I served, I'm serving both for the betterment. My job is to disclose, right? You've got this problem. I'll do whatever you want, but you're doing it well-informed at this point. So you're going to get all that, but sticking with your true north of what's best for the family, you can be in a conflicted, blended family situation, and you know what you're doing is right. So I bring that up, I bring all those stories up, or the last two, just to highlight a topic I said I was going to come back to, which is how do you work with the advisors, which is a big challenge, right? There's a lot of egos in accounting and investments and financial planning and everything else that we do. Bless you. And that is nothing to sneeze at. Sorry, I always wanted to use that joke. Yeah, for like 10 years. But some of the best practices in working with the advisors, because it's a little bit different. Some of them will actually be family. But it's going to change the dynamic when you walk in there. And I'll give you the example as I wrote it up here. You're in the office again, it's a normal day, and Mark is not having a bad day, and you get a phone call. It's a newer, very large client's other investment advisor on the phone. Hey, I just want to ask you some questions. Self-check again. How you feeling?
I'm all right.
Are you? Good. Anybody else get a little nervous? New client, new big client, $10 million client. Hey, I also manage $5 million for him. I want to talk to you. Okay. Most folks are a little bit nervous. They have a fear of loss. And everybody in this room is going to feel that way for the most part, not Superman. The guy or gal that you're calling feels the exact same way. So I don't want the first time that I meet an advisor to be in the room with the client. It's a totally different dynamic. There's bravado. Come on, give me some chest. There's bravado. Everybody's got to try to show value to the client. Some people become no advisors, where whatever idea you bring up, they're going to say no to. Oh, you invented the wheel. No. So I don't want that to be the dynamic when I'm trying to help them. So I will ask for their permission to go and see that advisor one-on-one. And I'll go to their office. I don't mind being on their turf. But then it becomes two colleagues having a consult instead of that mess. And it's usually it can be a little bit friendlier conversation. You have a little bit more free-flowing going in there. But so when I call to set up that appointment, hey, big client, I'm the other advisor, and you're like, whoa. I tell them 3 things straight away, and I'm telling within 20 seconds I will say this. 3 things. Number 1, the client speaks highly of you. Number 2, we are not here to replace you. Number 3, there's accounting or legal work, and you're going to do it. So we're here today just try to get your opinion on. We've been talking about doing this. He trusts you. We need to get your opinion. So I've gotten rid of everything drops. That again is client speaks highly of you. We're not here to replace you, and there's accounting or other work that needs to be done. And if it's investment business, I'll tell them your business is your business, and I will honor that. The clients don't want you backbiting. If we have a client that's got maybe 15 or 20 million with us and another 5 million with another guy, we will talk to that guy without a problem. And he's shocked by it. We're not scared of him. He's not scared of us. We all just get along. But normally you don't have those conversations, right? It's no way. So that's what the clients want you to do. And that advisor is a gatekeeper, and that advisor has just as much emotion as you do. So we're calling them. We're going to see them in advance when we can. We're telling them those 3 things again, and then we're just having discussions. And hopefully it's collaborative. The collaborative part is that part you should really, I think, rely on. Because if you walk in there trying to hammer home your solutions, that's not going to work. If they have the advisors they're smart. They've known them. They've been doing business with them for 20 years. They have a valid opinion. So it can't be your way or the highway. It's got to be like, well, that's interesting. Why don't we talk about that and see how it will work? Yeah, what do you think about that? Here's what we're talking about, but you've known him for 20 years. I'm here to get your opinion. What do you think? And then I will reference the true north, like what's best for the client or what was the client's goal. And if it's not going to achieve that, then we have to keep working. And eventually you find the solution that you're looking for, hopefully. But if you can be tactful with them and you can be respectful and collaborative, most of them will work collaboratively with you. Some of them, I had a guy, I was in my 30s. I was in good shape then, and he was 70. And there's 10 advisors around the table. The guy was worth $100 million. And he calls me over, sit next to him, because I'm running the financial planning. And all these guys are looking at me like, who are you? At the break, this 70-year-old man is he said, and don't F with me. That's not exactly what he said, but he physically threatened me on the sidebar. And I was like, I'm going to whoop you. But you just take a deep breath, and I say to myself, be professional. And that guy's water off a duck's back to me. But if I had taken the bait, we could have had a fight right there. That'd have been fine. I won, I think. Right? 110%. And whether 100%. Is that from we both would have lost, and whether it's a physical fight or it's just backbiting, you both lose anytime you do that. So even if they're doing stuff, it's not that they did it wrong, it's that they could do it better, right? And I'm sure you already talked about this, but this is how we might suggest doing it instead. So I want them to look good. If you don't care about who gets the credit, you can get a lot of things done. So if I can give the other advisor a better way to do it than the stupid way that they set it up, great. I don't have to tell them that it's stupid in the process. So just remember that when you're sitting and you call them, they are just as nervous as you are anytime they're getting that phone call. But go see the people in advance. And that's a lot of what we put together today. If we have more time, I have examples and stuff, but what questions do you guys have? None? Good, we're done? Yeah. No, I will close.
Would you say anything to that other advisor about, you know, I have some other cases I might want to discuss with you or something, just to kind of bring them.
HK don't lie. I don't lie. And if I don't think I'm going to give him other stuff, I'm not going to bring it up. Yeah,
Well, but I mean, it's,
Situation where you see one sibling
but you might.
or mom or dad, essentially, you might not change the allocation, this one never helped you out, mom and dad.
Yeah.
Program.
We have a guy in Tennessee. They saw the sister go into the nursing home. She is producing another will with different fonts and not all initialed. And they have on camera her going into the nursing home to get it signed. And they're like, in Tennessee, that's elder abuse. Like she may go to jail. Yes, people do it all the time. I mean, I go back to the true north again. Like, why would that not work? Well, the true north is what's best for the family. Sometimes they don't care. Mom's wishes or dad's wishes is something that they may want to honor. And if we were to do that, does that, we're not achieving what they're looking for. So it's all goal orientation. Once they're fighting, there's not much you can
what
do.
happens when you have two siblings? One lives in the same town as the parent, one doesn't. So one obviously has a closer day-to-day relationship, and the one who doesn't believes that he knows when the last legitimate will was prepared, but the one who lives there all of a sudden presents something that was prepared subsequent to that that the one had no knowledge of.
Do you know about Aretha Franklin's will?
No.
Anybody? You know about Aretha Franklin's will? The one that they're going to prove, the one that is being proved in court and that they're going to honor, was handwritten, shoved in her couch. There were other wills before that, but they proved that one was actually her will, and that's the one they're going to honor. So crazy stuff happens all the time.
Right, and how do you determine whether the person was of sound mind when that was supposedly?
They pay people for that. They got lawyers. And by the way, I got lawyers that'll fight those battles too. I mean, there's a lot of fiduciary law is a hot area. But are you asking me both of you, like how to address it if they're a problem child? Usually that's getting out of my space. They're going to need something. All we can do is try to plan as best we can for their situation. But I would also build it to the lowest common denominator. If I have to have a trust for that child, then these other kids are likely going to have a trust too. Just because, even if it's plainly obvious that is that child is the problem, it's just fair. And I don't like it, but I'll tell the kids that. Like, you would not want yours in trust and theirs outright. So we're going to have to design it. I mean, you don't have to design it that way. I mean, you can design it however you want. But I don't want their kids to feel the final act from mom and dad being, you were terrible. You sucked. So,
like if there's a car or a condo involved and one of the kids is just turned 18 or whatever, I mean,
hope for the best. I mean, you can't plan that. You can only get so. You could put in the will like who gets what. The biggest thing will be to communicate it.
Those things so that you know what's equitable.
Yeah, and I would rather, if there's going to be a problem, I want the parents around to be able to referee it. They're too chicken to do it a lot of times. But if you're going to do something that's going to maybe cause a fight, why don't we bring it up and see if there's a problem? And if there is, maybe we'll fix it. Because when you're sitting on a cloud looking down, we can't unwind that. And if they're at each other's throats, that's on you. But we see that that's a problem, so maybe we should do it a different way.
How do you, if you have, you've prepared as well as you could prepare, but you find yourself in an untenable situation, how do you pump the brakes? How do you figure out how to get the time to have the conversation with your client that you think you need to have? How do you
Just got to call a timeout sometimes, man. If it's going over the edge, you got to call a timeout. I had a meeting with an advisor. I was like, this is not productive and I'm leaving. And I got up and left his office. You just got to.
What if one of the children happens is that one of the children is the executor of the estate and wants to be compensated for endless hours of time.
What's in the document? What's in the document?
Isn't that typically a lot?
Yeah.
An executor to
Yes.
be compensated?
Yeah, it's reasonable. I talked to somebody else at the break, and you guys were over it, so if you guys want to break. But he had a new second wife who got the family business. Her husband died. The husband's sister didn't get any of the family business. They only been married for 3 or 4 years. So she's getting her money is how she feels, right? The sister's like, hey, this was our business. Why are you getting that? She's also the trustee for the sister-in-law. And she is asking her to prove that she needs $400,000 a year to live on. And I said to the guy, I was like, do they spend $400,000 a year? He's like, yeah. He's like, then tell her to stop being a pain in the ass. Like, if you want to have some records on it, but I don't need your budget. You know, maybe it's 300's reasonable because we're not feeding him anymore, but honor the document, honor the wishes of the deceased. And that's my true north. And I told him to say, what was the intent of the deceased? The intent was that she live the same style of living that she's accustomed to. And by the way, both of them are clients, the sister and the sister-in-law. I said, and who do you represent in that scenario? But I would go to the sister and say, what was your brother trying to accomplish? Let's honor that. You may not be able to get it done. People hate each other. Siblings hate each other all over the planet. So that's how I approach it.